We started last year a process of honoring a few of our senior members in what I have termed, as Richard told you, I like labels, a legacy lecture. Because I firmly believe that some of our senior members, we have a lot to learn from. And we don't really have it, many of us entered this organization after they have slowed down their practice. And one of those people is Bob Zeff. Bob was one of the principal forces in the trial bar in Michigan for over 43 years. He joined his father in his firm in 1957. He, I think, is the only lawyer I've ever heard of who had a reputation of having the most seven-figure verdicts of any lawyer in the country. At a time when $1 million verdicts were very unusual. During the 70s, Bob was racking them up one right after another. He has published and demonstrated his technique in something called closing argument, which is a series of audio cassettes, and he has been characterized as the master of the closing argument. And we are asked him to come forward and chat a little bit about his career, life, and times. And we are going to videotape his presentation, which will be available as part of the Inner Circle archives. Bob.
Good morning. 54 years of practice, and Mark Davis says I've got 10 minutes. I can't say hello in 10 minutes. So I will read from the script and try. Get to truly know your brothers and sisters in the inner circle. They are fascinating, diversified people, and you're all significantly different. I didn't do this in 36 years as a member, so I'm going to take this opportunity to do that today with Avram Abba Zeff. Who is he? That's me. What happened to Robert? Well, my dad called me Abby. Kindergarten teachers thought Abby was baby talk for Bobby, and from this evolved a Robert Zeff. I received a call from Dick Grant in 1975. The call was to join a group of lawyers called the Inner Circle of Advocates. At that time, a group I had not heard about. And I am thankful to Dick and the original members for conceiving and fostering this phenomenal group. This phenomenal group of attorneys, and especially for inviting me to be part of them. Why did he call me? I'm sure he's asked himself this question over the years. So let me give you some insight as to how I evolved as a trial lawyer, which motivated Richard to extend his invitation. An exceptional trial lawyer should have ego, charisma, and a certain amount of arrogance, which he, of course, leaves in the hall before he enters the courtroom. I could have been the poster boy for these personality traits in the 1970s. As an example, when the Inner Circle had a convention in Greenbrier, West Virginia, in the 70s, I arrived in my own jet and swooped into Greenbrier with a great-looking girl on my arm and a buddy and his lovely lady. What I really was attempting to do was to satisfy the Inner Circle's prerequisite of attending the convention a minimum of once every 3 years. And I stayed one day, attended some meetings, and flew out the next day. Associated with ego, arrogance, and charisma, you have to have your own look. And conformity was not for me. My hair was so long that when I went to trial, representing Christina Ford in her divorce from Henry Ford II, a national publication stated her lawyer's hair was longer than hers. So ask yourself, how does one develop ego, arrogance, and charisma? All I have to say is that it comes with the territory. You either have it or you don't, for good or for bad. It all started for me in 1934, and then I was conceived in the United States and born in Tel Aviv, Palestine. I was a fifth generation on my father's side, born in Palestine, with prior generations having their roots in Jerusalem since 1840. My grandparents on both sides are buried on the Mount of Olives overlooking Jerusalem. Why is this significant in my development as a child? Because you're all products of your past, especially the young formative years. This allows you to blend in a certain amount of passion, encompassing dislike all the way to hatred, with a game face of sincerity, which is the underbelly of credibility. My father came to the United States in 1910 when he was 14 years old. He started selling insurance along with giving private Hebrew lessons. One of his pupils was my mother, and they married in 1921. As you all know, in 1934, Hitler had tremendous power in Germany. My family during this period was living in a Gentile area of Detroit, Michigan. And this turned out to be quite an experience for a youngster. Anti-Semitism was rampant. At my mother's urging, my father went to law school and started practicing in Detroit in 1927. How would you like to be a young boy of 5 years of age and see your father all of 5'6", 130 pounds, with thick, round, horn-rimmed glasses, getting off a streetcar? Coming from work to be surrounded by young men yelling at him with insults like, "Here comes the kike," etc., etc. Or how it affect you to go up to northern Michigan for a vacation in 1939 and see signs on restaurants that said, "No Jews or dogs allowed." Or go into a Ford dealership and see a newspaper owned and printed by Henry Ford, distributed to all Ford dealers for their display and distribution to their customers, lambasting the Jews as parasites, swindlers, and propagating the myth of the elders of Zion as parasitic Jewish bankers gathering in Switzerland who are attempting to take over the world. Or turn on the radio on Sunday morning, and on a major network, hear Father Coughlin lambasting the Jews from the Church of the Little Flower in Royal Oak, Michigan, a 20-minute ride from where we lived. But because I was a Jew getting beaten up on a continuing basis, going to and from school, these events will have a significant effect on you for the rest of your life. When I started practicing law at 22 years of age, in 1957, I was totally aware that there was not overt anti-Semitism, then below the surface, most people harbored anti-Semitic feelings. I became a partner with my father in 1957. His practice had consisted for over 20 years of representing 2 insurance companies, doing subrogation work. These companies knew my father was not in the best of health, and that his son, who had been working in the office since 1954, was coming in to help him in the practice. The year I joined him, they took the business away. This did not set well with me and invoked in me to this day an inherent distrust of corporate America. So there I was, a 22-year-old lawyer, partnering with a father who I deeply loved and respected. In fact, Zeff and Zeff remains the name of the firm to this day. The scars were there, and I entered the courtroom with a take no prisoners attitude and mentality toward opposing counsel. And when my father died in 1966, I had already developed the significant attributes needed as a trial lawyer, where in the 1970s, I had obtained more personal injury verdicts in excess of $1 million than any attorney in the United States. I was receiving significant recognition, both locally and nationally, as an attorney who was called the master of closing arguments. I also lectured and co-authored articles and books specifically dealing with my philosophy of how to try a case, starting from the voir dire to the closing arguments, which in most cases for me averaged well over 2.5 hours. In fact, Paul Rivera, I never see around here anymore, but he was former president of this organization, and he told me something that meant a lot to me, that the most important tool he had ever received, which helped facilitate his becoming an extraordinary personal injury trial lawyer, was a set of tapes of my closing arguments, which had been distributed throughout the United States. Not only did I concentrate on divorce, on tort cases, but I also had a significant divorce practice, representing the Fords, Upjohns, and the Sheldons, etc., etc. You are all successful, accomplished trial lawyers, and there is very little I can say today to aid you in the trial of a lawsuit. But I can say upon looking back that I see myself going to my office in Detroit on a Sunday with the temperatures near zero and with no heat in the building, bundling up in my overcoat and preparing for Monday's trial. On many occasions, I would be in that office well past midnight. So I say to you, to be a good trial lawyer, you need the attributes of hard work. To become a great trial lawyer, you must possess the will to never give up, the desire to outwork your opponent, and like any great athlete, you must have natural ability. And this ability will allow you to be totally individualistic, let your passions flow, and trust very few. I can stand in front of you today and say honestly that if I had to do it all over again, I would not want it any other way. But I say this and say it sincerely. I would have had more involvement in this most unique and wonderful organization, namely the Inner Circle of Advocates. I hope that my comments add to a broader perspective in your life and give you a better idea of the fascinating and diversified personalities that make up the best organization a trial lawyer can belong to, namely your organization. And as Kipling said in his poem, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. And at 77 years young, I will hold on. I thank you, the Inner Circle, for this opportunity and wish you and your families health, happiness, and peace of mind, and continued success in your careers. Thank you.